people not being able to get affordable housing, people not being able to get quality health infrastructure, quality educational infrastructure. And these are services that are very basic. People in our cities should be able to access them, but they're not capable of doing that just because of a bit of challenges here and there. And this is where then we have to look at our policy makers, look at the people who actually influence how our cities grow. They have the opportunity to use some of the tools that are accessible in the ArcGIS platform to make decisions on how do we then grow our cities, how do we ensure the great sustainability in the back of our mind. Now this then brings us to ArcGIS GeoPlanner, because this is just one of the tools that you can utilize as people in the water industry, people in the conservation industry, to ensure that you're able to then ensure and achieve sustainability. When you're doing your plans, when you're trying to conserve the environment, conserve wildlife, this is then what you can use. So in our demo or in our conversation today, we look at what ArcGIS GeoPlanner is and its relation in the ArcGIS platform. We'll also check out the application layout and then what functionalities are available for you. We'll look at the features and then we'll jump into a demonstration and conclude this session. So at its heart, ArcGIS GeoPlanner is actually a scenario-based sort of application. And what I mean by scenario-based is you don't just create one project and you don't just create a project in one perspective. You may have probably a project that you're trying to do that has 3 objectives. So you can create your project, and within that project then create different scenarios that are able to achieve these 3 different objectives, and then select which one works best, which one will attain, let's say, 50% of each of the objectives that you have listed, and then go with that, because then that will meet the planning criteria that you're working with. So at its heart, it's a planning tool that can be used with a scenario-based approach to it. And I'd also like to mention that it's web-based, so you can use it on ArcGIS Online, making it a very easy tool. Anyone with access to the internet can do it, and this makes it even a more collaborative tool, because then you can think about adding 5 users within your team. Let them all give different perspectives within these projects, and then you're able to make decisions based on the different perspectives that have been given. It can be added into your ArcGIS Online for enterprise accounts. We've been talking about enterprise, we've been talking about ArcGIS Online. Some of you may have access to enterprise, which has the portal. So this can be added to your portal, and then you're able to access it from there. It's shareable, as I've mentioned, it's collaborative. Create your projects, download the reports, share these reports on your report writing, the reports that you write monthly. You can share web maps for people to access and see the plans that you've done. And this will actually help you know what each stage of the project is, know where you're making mistakes, and rectify as you move along the process. So the layout itself is very simple. The only thing I've mentioned, and I'd like to mention again, is that it's a scenario-based application, so you can have multiple scenarios. And within these multiple scenarios, you get to explore the different data sets within ArcGIS Online or the Living Atlas. You get to design. We have tools that achieve this. You're able to design different scenarios. You're able to add and rectify some of the polygons that are there that you will not necessarily need. And you're also able to evaluate. And when I say evaluate, it's just an analysis sort of feature that allows you to actually dive deep into the data sets that you're working on, dive deep into the projects that you're working on, and actually make more informed decisions within the projects. With this, then, you can kick this work out to other platforms. Think about working with this data on ArcGIS Pro. Think about working with this data on Survey 123. Embed this map on Survey 123 and ask questions from the people. Maybe you're building a water station in a community. You can embed the plan that you're doing on Survey 123 and ask feedback from the people that you're building this for. And they'll be able to tell you that we either want it here, or we don't, or we think this can be changed or that can be changed. So it can also be used as a tool to actually get feedback from communities. And then think also of being able to create a platform for the community to contribute. So create your projects, use ArcGIS Hub to set up a space for people to do this, and then gather all this information. And this information can be very relevant when you're trying to achieve sustainability, when you're trying to ensure that we are looking at conservation in the best way possible. What then can you do with ArcGIS GeoPlanner? So I mentioned about being able to explore, and with Explore you can have a tool that will assist you to explore existing conditions within a space. So there's a tool called Add Data, and you'll find it within the Explore space of ArcGIS GeoPlanner. And this just helps you to add data. Probably you don't have access to data that is within your organization, then add it on ArcGIS GeoPlanner. Maybe you're trying to add schools, but you want to build a school in a location where there are roads, then add the data for the road networks within that particular area to actually see which is the best space to build your school. So it just helps you to explore more authoritative data sets within the ArcGIS Online space, the Living Atlas, which is also managed by S3, and then you can add this into your projects. You also get to design and sketch with these. We have some drawing tools that are available within the ArcGIS GeoPlanner, and this just allows you to sketch the different things. You can sketch points. Maybe you want to suggest a position where you can build a bus stop, then you can suggest that using the point tool. You can sketch roads, and these are just lines. You can also decide to sketch polygons, and there's also the tool that will allow you to paint, which is easy. You just slide the tool, and then it paints a whole polygon for you. So it's a very easy tool for people to use and to ensure that you're able to design, but design with sustainability in the back of your mind. You can also evaluate impacts and compare alternatives. And I mentioned about being able to create different scenarios. So imagine you have 3 scenarios. You can choose to look at them side by side. So see what this is and what this other one is. Does scenario A meet our objectives? No. Does scenario B meet our objectives? Maybe yes, by a certain percentage, and you can run with that. So it gives you a perspective of the different projects that you're doing, so that even as you're making your decisions, you're making very informed and very authoritative decisions. When we look at what then are the results that you get when you're using ArcGIS GeoPlanner, the first thing to note is that with ArcGIS GeoPlanner, you're able to actually get very clear analytics that help you to make decisions on very critical issues, and actually look at these proposed designs and how they're then able to affect the ecosystems that you're living in. There's a tool called the overlay analysis within ArcGIS GeoPlanner, and this just helps you to make decisions like that. You're able to actually deeply look at these issues and look at the data that you're working with and see how then it affects the work that you're doing. You can also leverage the built-in metrics of the dashboard. With ArcGIS GeoPlanner, we have a dashboard that allows you to actually get real-time feedback on the work that you're doing. You can see from this perspective here where we have a dashboard, and you can see you have access to bar graphs, you have access to pie charts, you can create the meters, you can create the just single metrics that look at one particular attribute within the work that you're doing, and then you're able to just see where you probably you have a budget, so you want a project that will only cost you 20,000. So this will help you to then select that project and not the other one. And then with ArcGIS GeoPlanner, you're able to create models, and these models ease your work when it comes to you doing this again. Sometimes, especially if you work in one industry, there are times when things are repetitive, and because you don't want to have to continue building models every now and then, you may end up just using the same one that you created and use it for the different projects as you move along. So I've been talking a lot about it, and I think it's about time I just took you through what exactly it is. So I'd like to mention that for you to access ArcGIS GeoPlanner, you'll first of all need to have an organizational account. And by this I mean an enterprise organizational account. Some of us may have access to public accounts, and unfortunately, this cannot work for ArcGIS GeoPlanner, just because there are some of the tools that actually use credits, and credits consume a lot of credits are consumed from your account. So a public account does not have credits, and you need to use a public organizational account to then be able to do some of the works that are done in ArcGIS GeoPlanner. So please take note of that. You need an organizational account to be able to access ArcGIS GeoPlanner. Okay, so to first of all access ArcGIS GeoPlanner, you need to go to your ArcGIS Online or your portal, and when you do that, this is the page that you will be directed to. So you can find it on the app launcher, and you'll just click on it to go to it. Once you do that, you'll be signed in, and this is my page at the moment. This is your project management page, and it is within your project management page that you can either create new projects, you can look at existing projects. If you want to edit a particular project, then you can also do that here. You can delete, you can edit the details of a project. You can check out projects within your organization. You can also look at projects in the whole of ArcGIS Online and even within your content. So we'll click on Create New. And when we create new, you will realize we have a number of templates. That is the beauty of ArcGIS GeoPlanner. As I mentioned, there's some things which are repetitive. There's no point for you to do something that you can already have something to work with from scratch. So we have templates that assist you when you're thinking about planning for economic development, green infrastructure planning, we talked about that in the morning, land use planning. So these are just some of the things that you can choose when you're working with ArcGIS GeoPlanner. And when you look at all, we have different people who have created their own. So you may choose to just select one of them if it aligns with what you're doing or with the projects that you're doing. You can also create your own, either on ArcGIS Pro, or you can choose to create one on ArcGIS GeoPlanner itself. And I've created a couple, which this was just to show you an example, but you can choose to also create your own and have them as templates for the work, especially in areas like here in Dar es Salaam. You can have templates that have pre-existing road networks, utility networks, educational facilities, things that are very basic when you're doing work across all industries. And then you can use those, you can use that template for the projects that you're doing. So I've already created a project, and I'm going to open it for us to then have a look at it. So in this scenario, I assumed that we were trying to, in the process of trying to increase the number of schools within Arusha, we decided to select 2 sites, and within those 2 sites, we are going to choose a site that, first of all, should not be 80 meters near a road or 80 meters near a waterway or a river or a stream. So to do that, then, these are the 2 sites, and you remember I mentioned you can create templates. I created mine, and in my templates I added my study area, which is the polygon, the main polygon, and then I also created a template for the residential area, and this just identified the places that are more populated when we are talking about the different population sizes to consider when we're looking at developing schools. I also created a template for the local stream, and a template for the road network, and a template for the school development site. So this is what it ended up looking like, and this is our site of consideration. So that being said, I'd also like to mention that you're able to change base maps. If we had 3D data, we could be able to change that from here to dot, so that is not accessible to us at the moment. But you can also select different base maps, and from your base maps, and from these base maps, you can select one that actually rhymes with your work. So my internet seems to be a bit slow. Let me try and reload the page. Yeah, so you can see that with ArcGIS GeoPlanner, there are some of the things that are very simplified for you, so there is less work for you to do. You have different designs chosen, you have different models chosen, so it's very easy for you to then decide what templates to use for your work. You can create your own templates, and that is a very good tool for you to access. So you can add different layers in ArcGIS Pro and actually use this as a template for you to then come and do your planning in ArcGIS GeoPlanner. So I mentioned that one of our criteria is to ensure when you're building a school, you're not building it 80 meters near a road or 80 meters near a stream. So this, we can then go ahead and create buffers. And when you're creating buffers, you go to the Explore tool, and within the Explore tool, we have the Analysis tab. And these tools are there for you to utilize if you want to summarize your data, if you want to find different locations within your map, to do data enrichment, if you want to do proximity, where you can create buffers, you can create travel time areas, you can find the nearest points. If probably you're looking for nearest points like hospitals, then you can use this. You can also do your custom analysis as well within the same application. So I've already gone ahead and created a buffer for the road networks, and let me just open it so that you see, and you can see based on this, then this seems like the most relatable place for us to build a school. Let me also put on the proximity for the local streams. So you can see that based on these graphics that you're seeing here, the best site will be this site over here. So then you can comprehensively come to a conclusion that this site best suits our plan, unlike this site which then is close to a road that is already existing on this condition. So having pre-existing data will really help you when it comes to decision making within your projects. Now, once you've selected the site, then you may decide that you want to give more preference to the play area for children. So we can then go ahead and do our design. And when it comes to design, I mentioned about being able to draw. So you can have predetermined points that you want to put in the project. If you want to add a bus stop, if you want to add a flag post in the school, and then you can also draw lines. And if you want to add proposed roads, if you want to add a school fence, if you want to add probably a proposed school road for just to show the layout of this school, then you can do that. And you can also draw polygons. So for polygons, you can also choose, maybe you want to put buildings, maybe you want to put an entrance area, maybe you also want to do a parking lot. So you can give all these land uses the different colors, and then we may also want to see the percentage that each of them occupies. And this is where I mentioned about us being able to get real-time feedback when we're doing our plans. So this is the dashboard, and you can also find it in the Evaluate tab. So let me just close this. So you can also find it on the Evaluate tab, and it just gives you a perspective of what you're working on. So you can, let's select to see the proposed school land use. And from this you can see what percentage each land use action has been allocated. So we wanted to give more preference to the field, which will act as a space for the children to play. And you can see here that that then occupies the largest percentage, which is 43.48%. You can see what the buildings also occupy. You can also see what the parking lot occupies, and that will give you a sense of what data you're working on. You're also able to do a side-by-side comparison. Now the side-by-side, as I mentioned, allows you to view the different scenarios. In my scenario, for example, I have two scenarios. I have scenario A, and I also have scenario B. So you can see in scenario B, there is nothing that has been created, but in scenario A, we have something that has already been pre-created. So maybe one of my team members has a different idea, and they may want to put it down on this application. So they can go ahead and do the same, and then when we do a side-by-side comparison, we'll be able to see whose proposal then meets our objective or overall objective at the end of the day. With ArcGIS GeoPlanner, you're also able to generate reports. You can choose to either generate an indicator report or a baseline report. Now, when you choose that, then you can select what you want to see. Do you want to see a chart indicator by type, or do you want to see a chart indicator per feature? And this will just give you a perspective of the different things that you're looking at. And then you can also choose the scenario. Maybe you just want data on scenario A and not B. You can also do that. And then when you click run at the end of it, you will generate a report that looks similar to this. So it will give you the different scenarios, the design charts, the proposed land, and all the other information that you may want to actually look at when you're doing your plans. And this is per feature, so you have two charts. If you decided to select per feature or per type, so this is per feature, and you also have one per type, and this will just give you a different perspective when you're looking at the data that you're working on, based on the attributes that you're actually considering, and based on the data that you have within your space. Yeah, so to conclude, ArcGIS GeoPlanner, as you have seen, is a tool that will really enable us to be able to make very informed decisions when we're doing our plans. And it's an easy-to-use application for teams. It allows you to collaborate in a very wide scale. You can add users, you can give stakeholders a chance to see the projects that you're doing. You can give them a chance to make comments about it, and you're able to support a complete planning workflow from the point where you're actually doing the project creation to the point where you're generating reports and sharing these reports, and sharing web maps that can then be used as points of conversation when you're doing your discussions in your projects. And it's an easy-to-use application for all teams, different industries. It's just not for planners. It can be used by people in conservation. It can be used by people in water management. So it's something that can be configured to fit each and every industry. Thank you. That